Let me take this opportunity to wish the people of St. Martin a happy new year, a blessed new year, a prosperous new year, and I hope everyone really had fun reading it in. I know I did. I really did enjoy it here in St. Martin. Most of the time I'm either in Aruba enjoying it with family and friends, but I decided that for some reason it was a much more occasion and a graceful period to spend it here in St. Martin this time, and yes, indeed it was. Just a few updates. I know the residents in St. Peter's have been calling me concerning the road, and I have some information to give them. Yesterday, we had a discussion with the Vrami department. Some of the heads were there, we were discussing it, and they're still having some structural improvements concerning the road. Hence the reason why it's not complete as yet. Some plates was put down. I don't know if it was the best thing to do at the time. I thought it was, just to sort of ease the traffic a bit. But after realizing that, the rain and the water and the weather that came sort of make it a little bit more slippery, so the plate shifted and there was a lot of noise. I know Miss Illage right across the road called me over and said, "Chris, I can't sleep." I had the plates removed, and yesterday the contractor was in and he gridded it down and put some sand and soil cement to make it a bit easier for the traffic. And I was also brought up to speed that not this weekend, but the following weekend, they will be working on it. So again, traffic will be closed off. So I'm asking for the cooperation of the people concerning the road, but they are working on it and it will be solved before the end of the month. That I was assured of. And also I must say that I'm a bit pleased, not satisfied, all of that concerning the garbage situation, but I don't know, it probably seems as if the fines worked a bit, because we see regular picks up is starting to happen in the districts. However, I took a drive through the Middle Region area and I see that something is not going too well. However, I have all the intentions to speak to the hauler in that area to see what seems to be the problem, because you don't want to be hard all the time. You want to hear them out and see what is going on, because it's not an easy thing. And also to the residents and the people, I must say that I'm a bit pleased also, because I've seen some of them starting to move the hard debris, like the mattresses and the fridges and the stove, to the dump. I was on the dump myself. I took a drive on the dump to sort of just get a view or the condition to what it looks like, and I was surprised to see people bringing the stuff to the dump. And the dump itself is something that is a high priority for this government. I know it is, because right after this meeting we'll be having a discussion about garbage and stuff, and it is a priority also for the Ministry of Vrami, a very, very high priority. I believe it's 10 or 15 years ago, it was told that the dump has reached its capacity. So basically what we are doing right now doesn't make no sense or much sense to continue doing what we are doing, and we all know that waste to energy is the way to go in terms of dealing and solving this problem. And I realize that we seem to seriously have a problem with sewage, a serious problem. We took some drive with some of the experts down at the Vrami department in some of the areas. They looked at it, and I was given assurance that inspection will be beefed up to really, really go and talk to the individuals, the homes, the businesses, to solve this problem. But there's one thing that I noticed, and I would want to encourage the districts or the communities like St. Peter's, South Reward, Middle Region, Colby, all the districts, because I remember when his name, Rolando Tobias, was the president of the St. Peter's Community Council. He really had St. Peter's on the move in terms of having a keen eye of how things was going. So I'm asking the communities, to beef up or really, have a strength or a strong hand in their community, strengthen your community council, so you yourself can give a listening ear a voice to government as to how things are going, because you're the one that live in the district. You know your area. You know what is going on in your area. You know the spots in the area. And it's not all the time that government is aware of what is happening in that particular area. And I also know Mr. Priest, I believe he still is the president of the community council in Middle Region, you know. But what I'm saying, if the community councils are strengthened, if they are aware, if they are really forceful in their area, in their district, I believe a lot more can be done in terms of the cleanliness of the area, awareness in the area, and how things is going on and how things is happening. Again, it's not much that I really want to say, because like what I've said before, we are still working on the issues. I'm still being, brought up to speed with a number of things that is happening. But again, I still seriously have a problem with the way we are keeping our surroundings. And I'm asking people to really have a conservative effort and take some pride and, have some cleanliness when it comes to their area, because you still see it a bit. It's still a little eyesore when they just simply, the garbage is removed and they just come and just dump a whole wall unit. And you're trying to figure out, who should spin around and pick it up? These things cannot continue to happen. And I'm asking the people of St. Martin to really, help us to help you so we can move forward. Because at the end of the day, and I keep saying it all the time, it's just one small island that we have. One small island. And our main pillar is tourism. And you don't want tourists to stop coming to this country. And if we have a filthy and a dirty island, they will stop coming.
I would like to start by wishing the people of St. Martin a very happy, prosperous, and safe New Year, and especially safe New Year. I also would like to thank Mr. Franz Richardson and the U.S. Party for the confidence and the trust that they put in me to ask me to take on this awesome responsibility of the Justice Ministry. And I say awesome because if we just follow the news of the past months, what has been happening, one would have to stop and wonder what is going on. And the cry out of the community is very understandable, and people want to see action. But then again, I was very happy when I read the New Year's wishes of the Prime Minister, because in the New Year wishes of the Prime Minister, the Minister went pretty detailed into the safety aspect, the justice aspect. And I recognize a lot of the approaches. If I had written a speech before, I thought maybe he would have laid his hands on it, but that was not the case. But that's why the government has a platform. And under the guidance of the Prime Minister, the priorities are set out as to this governing term, what would be addressed. And that issue of the justice and the safety and the security of the community and our visitors has a very high priority. A lot of times we also hear that, yes, a lot has to be done, but there's no money to do it. But I believe that a lot also can be done that don't require a lot of money to do. And one of the things that we have to work on, and my colleague, the Minister of Romi, in one of his first actions with the garbage collection, where it was said, listen, look, we have responsibilities and we have to live up to those responsibilities. And if we don't live up to those responsibilities, there should be consequences. And I applaud the minister for that. Because we have to be careful that we don't become a community where we start the irregularities, the illegalities become norm. And it takes all of us. It's not just the police or the prosecutor. Then usually when the police and the prosecutor get in the mix, it's already too late. We have to develop back a sense of respect, responsibility towards ourselves and our fellow man for what we do in the community. Whether it is traffic, if there's a sign say that you should not park there, you should not park there. And if you park there, there will be consequences. And then you should not cry wolf when those consequences come down. And so we have to refocus. We have to refocus, and it is all of our responsibility to do so. Also, attention would be placed on prevention. It's good to build a lot of prisons, and we need better facilities, definitely. But I think it is also even more important to try to keep people out of those facilities, and especially our youngsters. So we have to focus on ways and means that we do not lose any more of our youngsters, and especially our young males, on the criminal path. That, again, the Ministry of Justice cannot do alone. So in cooperation with the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of ASR, I hope to approach our colleagues that we can come up with programs and projects, because one ministry can, if there's 100,000 guilders available, and each ministry fight for that 100,000, and each of us want 75,000 to come with a program, we will not have enough. But maybe if we work together, we can get one good program off the ground that can have good effect, and all of us can be happy because we would be working towards our improving our community. Also, the rhetoric of the last few months. We have landed in the finger-pointing process. It's not me, it's him, it's her. It's the police, it's the prosecutor, it's this one, it's that one. It's all of us. And we have to be also careful when rhetoric, I heard someone said once when the issue of robbery took place and there were some youngsters involved, and someone said, what do you expect them to do if they don't have jobs? Is that the answer? If you don't have a job, you take a gun and you go rob a store? We as responsible leaders have to be also careful with what we say. And we should not, and I know we don't mean it that way, but it could be taken that way. It could be that we are given credence to the fact that if you don't have a job and you feel displaced in the community, then you should go out and do wrong things. So those are some of the areas, besides the urgent attention that the prison, the police, etc. need, that would be having full attention. We also would have to look at some of those areas. So for now, being my first press briefing, I just wanted to give a brief outline of the direction that we would like to go with resolving some of the problems. Also, if I'm not mistaken, there was a motion in Parliament that within 60 days, the ministry should come up with a plan of approach as to what would be done with the crime situation, and I intend to answer within the 60 days.
A few points just to talk about. We have hit the ground running, I believe, which is, I like to think, one of my trademarks. We have completed the cabinet for the Minister of VSR. 3 of the members of the cabinet from my first term will be returning, and that's Jim Rosen, Alyssa Rios, Selby Phillips, 4, and Chris Fleming. Alyssa and Selby are policy advisors. They've done a tremendous job in the past year. Jim Rosen's a senior specialist. He's done, again, a tremendous job, especially whenever it comes to financial analysis. I think he's done an excellent job. And Chris Fleming is a personal assistant. She's always making sure that everybody in the cabinet is well taken care of. Different than last time. Last time we did go through a public search process to fill any empty vacancies, but we've had an interesting time in the past year within government that I've had an opportunity to meet and interact with people, and I would say basically always with an eye open to who's doing a great job within government. And so we've done a bit of, or I've been doing headhunting throughout the year. So we're actually taking 2 new people as a new legal advisor. So the 2 people that are not returning, because of the transition in government, and it looked like at first we weren't coming back, they've secured other positions elsewhere, which is, again, good for them, good luck for their futures. So it left us with 2 vacancies to be filled. One is an executive assistant and one is a legal advisor. So the legal advisor that I've selected is from Legal Affairs, Alexandra Cizo. She has a lot of experience working in administrative law with government. And actually, I worked with her very much when it came to working on the issues with the adult entertainers and how we went through all of that transition. And that process took many months. It was between first TIAT and Justice, and eventually came back to VSA to propose an interim, I suspect somewhat mid to long-term solution. And I found that her approach was extremely pragmatic, very practical. And I think that when it comes to hiring legal advice, to find lawyers that are solution-oriented is really a great value for the cabinet. And the other is a young gentleman, Marvio Cooks. He's my executive assistant. He's a young professional with a bachelor's in computer science and a heavy background in ICT. He worked at the Ministry of Education. Thank you, Minister Jacobs. But in my time that I've spent talking to him and working with him in the past, I found him to be an extremely dynamic person, a person with really great vision, and every time I brought up a new idea or something that I thought was innovative, he always came back with an answer, well, that's something that I've thought about or researched or I've seen YouTube videos on, and so I really felt that that was a good bond, a good connection, and I think he's an excellent addition to the team. So we've put a cabinet together that I'm very proud of. I think the synergies are good, the educational backgrounds are complementary, the experience is great. So I'm very proud of the team that we've put together. As a matter of fact, we've already begun with some preparatory work. It is interesting. When I came in as minister previously, if you remember, originally we weren't even sure. I think it was maybe 3 months or a 4-month term. So. And then that was extended, obviously, to a 1-year term. So the perspective going in was a very different perspective. It was one of, let's focus on the bigger issues. There's certainly a lot of smaller issues that, cumulatively, of course, have a big impact in the community. But there's no point, trying to tackle everything with such a limited time frame and with an election overlapping that to boot. So, but this time, we're looking at this as a stable government. We're looking at a 4-year term, which changes our perspective. It means that we're going into things with a different perspective, really trying to get into root causes and details and things that we haven't had an opportunity in the past to really focus on. So again, this whole process has been a very interesting process because, as you know, we were preparing our transition document for an incoming minister. And that same transition document that we were preparing before now becomes the basis for our actions going forward. So I think we are going to have department head meetings starting tomorrow already, or starting today actually. And again, by department going through personnel issues, financial issues, but also policy issues, all types of strategic points, but again with a longer term perspective. So these are interesting and exciting times. In the absence of telephones within our office, the Secretariat's been kind enough to provide us with a cellular number by which people can reach the minister's office. And for the record, that is 520-2767. So that will be a designated cell phone for contacting the office of the minister for now. The other point I'd like to talk about is the national health insurance. As you know, based on previous discussions, a draft legislation was prepared. Clearly, the legislation needs more work and it needs more time for discussion with stakeholders. There's a number of serious misconceptions within the community, and so I think rushing the process would only be detrimental to the ultimate end goal of providing health insurance to everybody in St. Martin. And to that end, actually, we went, as you know, we attended a conference on healthcare financing in Bonaire. This was just after the elections. And in that was a very interesting conference where they brought best and worst practices from all of the Caribbean islands. And it was very interesting to hear what other countries have done, what their successes have been, and what their failures and what their issues are going forward. And in that, there was a keynote speaker, a Dr. Van de Ven, who's a professor of health insurance financing in particular at the Erasmus University. And I was extremely impressed with his presentation. And just to give you a bit of an idea about his background, some of the things that really impressed me, first of all, was that in particular within the Dutch Caribbean, many of the policy advisors actually were his students. So it was interesting to see the rapport between some of the people who were attending and with the professor, because he literally taught many of them what they know about health insurance, about social insurance, and how you finance it. His teaching and research focuses on many topics, including managed cooperation in healthcare, competitive health insurance market, risk selection, moral hazards, risk equalization, managed care, and priority choices that need to be made in healthcare. He's experienced as a governor and advisor of insurance companies, political parties, government, research institutes, hospital, and healthcare organizations. As a consultant, he's worked for the World Bank and for World Health Organization. He's also the founding father of the European Risk Adjustment Network. So a person that I think is eminently qualified to provide the country some guidance and some advice in terms of how we're moving forward with national health insurance. But in addition to that, I think that his approach, his communication style, the way that he listened to the participants in the conference, I found to be extremely impressive. So we've invited him to, number one, help us with advising in the NHI policy, but also to be a moderator for stakeholder sessions. And those stakeholder sessions are going to begin in the week of January 22nd, so in a couple of weeks. So this is something that we already put into motion from just after the elections. So the first available time slot for him to come was the end of January. So we're very excited. There's going to be meetings with the Council of Ministers. We've arranged also for meetings, hopefully, with members of Parliament, and also with all kinds of stakeholders within the community to, again, get feedback, but also to sensitize the public and stakeholders as to some of the issues that are really surrounding national health insurance. You know, national health insurance, basically, it's a very dynamic process, and there's a lot of choices that need to be made. To have health care for everybody, high-quality health care, is an obvious goal, but the question becomes, how do you make it financially sustainable? And in that process of making it financially sustainable, there's many choices that need to be made along the way. So, and each of those choices with a financial consequence. So we're looking forward to that conversation going forward.
It is with great pleasure that I stand here with them and realize the commitment that they each have to making and working together in a goal-oriented manner towards improving the quality of life for all of our people here on St. Martin. When I listened, I heard about collaboration. We have started. I mean, some were out during the last part of the year, so it's a fresh new start for us here in the Council of Ministers. I am quite proud to be standing with these gentlemen as the only female left. But I know that cooperation and collaboration is the order of the day, and it has started already. So I'll be having some meetings, as was mentioned before, with the Ministry of VROMI in moving some of the projects that have been lagging behind, where schools and reconstruction is concerned, as well as with our ministries of ASI and Justice in dealing with some of the protocols and legislation that also have been lagging behind in terms of protection of our youth and working together to prevent our youth going astray, etc., and collaborating budget-wise. Thank you so much for that. I'm happy to hear that, and definitely we'll be able to save the country some money, because I've been saying over and over in the past, we can continue to spend on incarceration and the like, but if we don't spend on prevention, then that will continue to rise. So many talk about the large budget of the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports, but I believe that it is justified, because we must preserve the core of what we serve is the youth, and that must be preserved for our future. So thank you to my colleague ministers for the commitment to work together to realize that. As I mentioned in last year, in preparing a New Year's address, which was sent to the press, I am looking forward to an action-filled year by not just this government, but the community. And it has started already, and I've also heard the call of our Minister of Romi, so we're definitely on one page with that. Nothing can be done in isolation. The community, the people, the business community, as well as our visitors, we all have to work together to make sure that life on St. Martin is not just viable, sustainable, but that we can have a happy and good life. And I think we have all of the ingredients. And if everybody has the same goal in mind, then we should definitely be able to move in that direction. In that vein, I would like to applaud two initiatives that I've already seen being advertised, and one is the community initiative of the St. Martin Reads. It's an association affiliated at the library. I see many of the library workers as well involved, pushing for literacy on St. Martin, and that falls definitely within our Education on the Move campaign, seeing and promoting anything that is a positive within the community. And so they are having this Saturday evening, an evening of literacy, poetry, reading, for the community of Dutch Quarter. And so I'm very proud of such an organization to be going out in the community in this manner. Not everything has to be done by government, but we can definitely applaud and support where we can. So this is one of those initiatives which I implore and encourage all communities to find evenings to promote literacy, to promote good stuff, because we keep saying our youth are not busy with proper activities, but we need to start looking inwards as individuals, as communities, as churches, as even school organizations, and of course government. What are we doing to stop that trend and create new positive trends? So I definitely applaud that effort. In March upcoming, St. Martin has been taking part in this Dutch Caribbean or Dutch plus Dutch Caribbean initiative of SXM, Doet, Curacao, Doet, all of the other countries. And we've done very well, each year improving. Again, I wouldn't want us to only volunteer on March 10th and 11th, but to make it a way of life. If we who have can volunteer, whether it's time or donate finances to assist those who need, we will see that they are then empowered to then become less needy, and will have gained from that and also give back as well.